Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Welcome to the internet. I am your friendly neighborhood prox. Welcome to the channel. I have with me a wonderful friend and guest who is here to help me add yet another wonderful NPC to the complicated world that is Carousel Court. But would my wonderful friend and guest, Greg, would you like to introduce yourself to the people on the internet?
Sure. I'm Greg. I go by Grimjack21502, I guess, on the Twitters, but you can see me over on Trooper's channel and on Unmade Gaming. I do some fun RPG stuff, and I've known Prax forever, and we're going to have fun making a house here. So,
Yes, and I can officially say, I'm going to tell you this, Greg. Um, it will be a lot of fun. I told people that when you and I get into our shenaniganry, that there's been extreme level of drama introduced, and prepared them for it. Also, I need to ask you a question in advance before we do this. We're taking bets on if the over/under is this going to be a cursed house or a not cursed house.
we'll have to see. I'm not sure yet. I have absolutely no plans. I have absolutely no ideas as to how I'd like to take this, but the best things happen whenever you sit down at a table and everybody says, "Hey, let's tell a story." So let's tell a story. Let's see what the dice have to say,
All
and
right, all
here we
right
go.
then. So I'm going to give you just a little bit of TLDR, and everybody watching at home, follow the rules of the that everybody. The first 7 episodes are always a pilot for everybody. Um, so Carousel Court, which is this game that we are building, is a Southern Gothic urban fantasy game set in Savannah, Georgia, starting in 1945 and will go until the year 2000. Um, in 1945 is our starting point. World War II changed so much for the world. With so many countries joining in large scale land battles and devastating bombings, the creatures and beings that once hid in the shadows, that most modern and rational adults viewed as superstitions from a bygone age, were forced into the light. The world knows that humans aren't the only beings on the planet, and now they must learn to live together. Carousel Court is a brand new subdivision built on the former lands of a small plantation at the edge of the city of Savannah, Georgia. These homes are perfect for new families just starting out, for our boys coming home from the war and looking to start fresh with all within easy walking distance of the elementary school and the country club. Oh, Hawk is, by the way, giving you an over/under count for a doom of at least 2. We will see how this goes. Um,
I mean, I'd love to prove you wrong, but I don't know where we're going from this. I mean, it could be,
it will.
this could be Sesame Street. It could not be. We'll see. We'll
We'll
see
find out. Um,
who's going to be our neighbor, right?
that's look. I need to determine. Okay, look. We all did. If you're of a certain age on the internet, you know that the ultimate winner of the Ultimate Showdown of Ultimate Destiny was the Ultimate Neighbor. Um, but we need to get started, which means we
Sure.
need to start with the rolls, which
Sure.
are we're going to start with the initial stats, and this will give the starting point in history of when this family or lineage came into existence. Um, and that starts with 8d6 minus 2d6 is just the macro.
Sweet. Do we have a macro for that, or am I?
No, I just have the I should actually make a macro, but I'm just get too used to just typing it in the chat and then just copy and pasting because I'm an easy person like that.
Oh, okay. I'll just steal that as you've given it to me because that is math that I am not getting into right now.
Look, I ran a Witcher game for 5 seasons, Greg.
All right,
I did a lot
you
of
know it.
math.
There we
Ooh.
go. What's that mean? 17, everybody.
So you
17.
start. So your
Yahtzee.
7 stats are HOA rating, influence, wealth, your people, which is both your family and if you have enough of them, your employees, land, your reputation, and magic. So we're going to start with an HOA of 17, which
Okay.
is um, your house is a little well loved, but that just adds character.
Okay. Okay.
Now, these are all going to change before we get to the end, but this is where we start.
And that's the physical appearance of the property. right? We're
Yeah,
just the team.
because what else is
Lived in
power?
but loved in. Okay.
What else is power in a subdivision in a country club, but how much your HOA is?
Sure. Right. Of course. What was I thinking? Okay, next one.
The same. Yep.
All right.
20.
20.
20 is a good roll. We're starting out decent. Influence of a 20. Uh, debutantes talk to you once.
Oh, mercy.
Look, some of these I had fun writing.
Um, okay, so let me ask this. The meta questions coming in. What would be considered like because this is the math that I am not going to do and figure this out for myself. What would be considered a good roll? Like what's average for
So, Krellin at one point did the math on this for us all that a good roll is between 20 and 23 for a starting roll based on 8d6 and minus 2d6.
okay.
Um, the table itself goes from 0 to 70 with tier jumps at the one spot. So 0, 1 to 10, 11 to
Gotcha.
20, 21 to 30, 31 to 40, 41 to 50, etc.
So 31 and 39 are the same thing.
Yeah.
They're like the same. Okay.
Because it's the tier is important, but when it comes in really important is because the other part about the house system in this system, which is a modified version of the Green Ronin Sword Chronicle system, which was the system, their setting agnostic system that they created after they lost the Song of Ice and Fire license. You also, the more numbers you have in that, the more value you have in that tier, the more you have to invest in actual physical investment. So like you can have a power rating of like 40 and then spend 20 of it to invest in multiple heirs and buying off, various people and all of these other things. And it's how much you have to invest versus then your tier jumps are separate. Right now we're only focusing on tier jumps.
Gotcha. Okay. So if you are ready, I'm ready, and we can.
Cool. Let's go. Let's do the next one.
Oh, 21. Now that I know the 20 to 23 is good, I am happy with that.
Yes, a 21 in wealth puts you at lower middle class. You have a savings account, and there's even some money in it, depending on the month.
Well, I was happy, and now I'm not really that much happy.
Look, you could have been destitute.
No, I'm over the moon. I can see it shaping up here.
Yeah. Plus,
right.
all of these values are only the initial rolls, and all of the historical events are going to go up or down depending on what you happen to roll.
Cool.
So.
Next one is 19.
19 is for people is a nuclear family, however you choose to define that.
Gotcha. Alrighty. So 2 parents, 2 kids. That's what we're going for.
Generally, or if we're more ethnic, 2 parents and multiple children.
Gotcha. Alrighty.
Land.
Land.
Mm-hmm.
22.
22 is actually a good roll. You own the house and some land in the country, keeping an eye on that balloon payment at all times.
Okay.
Because,
it's always there.
It's always there. Also 1945, and the Depression was not that long ago.
Another 22.
Yeah. Another 22 in reputation. Ooh, this is... Yes. Unknown. You don't have a reputation, either good or bad.
Nice.
As opposed to the one which is directly below, which is bless their hearts. Your family's historical scandals still influence opinions.
Oh, damn, I like that one, though.
You never know how it'll happen at the end. And now we need to determine how much magic the family has.
So. Okay. Here we go. 19.
19 puts you at certain generations have magic, but never large expressions.
Gotcha.
And this is where we start.
Alrighty.
So the family is in a unique place when we start. But now we need to roll 3d6 plus 1. Because that will give us the total number of historical events that you're going to roll based on arbitrary points in history. And yeah, that'll figure out how old this family is, basically. Hope is correct.
8.
8. You know what? Let's roll that again because I want to have more fun. Because I want to just have more drama, Greg. I want to have more drama.
Okay. And it was 3D.
3d6 plus 1. Because you
3d6 plus 1.
Yep, you rolled 2 ones.
I'd already forgotten.
You know, if you just push the up button, it'll re-roll the exact last roll.
Yeah. Yep. That's what I should have done, right? Oh my god. Why am I not? Alrighty. This is what happens when I take my allergy medication.
It's okay. We're all here. We're all for,
Right.
all the drama that's going to come out of this.
My god, am I doing this right? Hold on a second.
Did you put the wrong backslash in?
No, I did put the right backslash in. My R did not type.
Oh yeah, that's Lord.
Hey everybody, 11. After all of that.
11. Which is fine. It puts us at...
I looked at that a million times and did not see that the R was missing.
Okay.
Yay.
Yay. All right, so here we go with our arbitrary start points. I'm just gonna delete these extra.
So let me ask a question though.
Yep.
Because you said earlier with the 8, you wanted me to have more fun. Does the lower the number mean the younger the family?
Yes. You want to go all the way up to the top? See, we can do that.
I'm beginning to see something happening here. And
okay.
Like, I don't know. Obviously, we're not talking about. I mean, we have the country club, and we're not talking about wealth because in that level of whatever. But this is definitely better than, like you said, destitute. This is new families, but it's also kind of the American dream, so to speak. And in my mind, even though it has really no direct comparison because of the economic kind of status, but I started thinking about the Beverly Hillbillies. Don't ask me why. And up from the ground came a bubbling crude, and they were able to elevate pretty quickly their lifestyle. And so I was thinking, wouldn't that be funny if not the meteoric type of rise where you're all of a sudden fabulously wealthy, but you come like out of the holler, and now you are.
See, that's where we're going to find out what happens. The number of events is just not. It's not just about how, because the family is, you have to remember with it's where they started, and then you'll find out where they end up, and they can come out of the holler. But it's also the fact of like the Beverly Hillbillies had a history before they moved to Beverly Hills, right?
Sure, absolutely. Which usually came to visit every other episode.
Yes, exactly. We want to know about the family history going back beyond the Beverly Hills.
Yeah, right. Okay, so I leave it up to you as to which one that we should pick. If I wanted a younger family, but like you said, there's history before.
Yeah, one of the things we definitely have done recently is like you don't have to have the family be in Savannah all of their history, and in fact, a large number of the families that we're building haven't been, because World War II was a major shift. At the end of the war was a major shift in population and people moving and all of these things. So one of the things we've been doing is going with what the history that comes out and seeing how much history that family has, and then we determine afterwards, well, exactly when in their history did they get to Savannah, or what will be eventually called the city of Savannah.
Gotcha. Yeah.
We might see how they kind of come up out of this. And if you want to have how much drama? Let's put it this way: how much drama do you want to have in this family, Greg? Let me phrase this: are we talking? Do we want Carrie Elwes or Tim Curry level of scenery chewing?
Okay, so let me ask you, like, when you mean drama, you mean just drama that is encompasses the family, or do you mean drama within the family, or do you mean drama? Like,
So the other touchstone that I've been telling players and other people about this game is Dark Shadows, the TV series, not the movie.
okay,
The opening of Barnabas Collins walking back into Collinswood after, you know, being like, yes, of course I'm my own cousin, and the likeness to me on that wall of the painting on that wall is entirely a fluke. I did not happen to sit for that
right,
painting 300 years ago.
right, right. Okay, so yeah,
150.
yeah. Let's okay. I'm getting an idea of what I want to do here. So,
Okay,
or
so
what
how
could
much?
potentially happen.
So what? How much do we want to go for the full drama then?
Sure. Yeah. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay. Um, since this is a thing, and I think it will play well. And right now, technically, only Pope's house is the oldest house currently. He made a bunch of demons, or excuse me, fallen angels, not demons. They just happen to employ a bunch of demons. Um,
Right. That old chestnut.
there were reasons why it came into it. Um,
Fantastic. Awesome.
I think, and we have a couple really young families. I was thinking maybe if we go back to having this NPC house be equally as old would provide a nice, whatever happens to them would provide a nice balance.
Sure. Okay.
If that does that work for you?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Cool.
If I mean, we can play into like a I don't know what type of. I mean, if Pope's house is fabulously rich, we can lean into this one being not so great.
We'll find out.
If
You might
sure.
roll really, really well and make a shit ton of money.
Oh well, yeah, let's do that. I let's.
That's the
I didn't
thing
know
is
if we
like,
had to go off of these dice or we were
no, no,
okay.
no. These are
Cool.
just the beginning. This is the, you know, your starting gold, shall we say. And then you find out what the adventure story was, and then you find out where you are in the
Nice.
middle of the story. Um, and so one of the things I did when I picked the historical time points for this game and how much time I wanted to consider, because this is an alternate history, but that alternate history isn't obvious until 1941, when just the spread of embedded news crews, the ability of spread of information was so vast and so quick that the supernatural could no longer effectively hide. It's really hard to hide the fact that you're the only house in a row house in London that isn't utterly destroyed in a night's bombing. Like, that's a little weird. You're the only family that isn't, you're the only house in Dresden that isn't utterly destroyed in carpet bombing. There's a lot of these little events, and eventually these will change. This caused me to think about what I wanted to change for history, and all of the history as we know it up until 1941 is exactly the same publicly. At certain points there have been supernatural influence to get to the point that we know, but publicly that's the history. And then in 1941, all of these little events from 1939 forward, 1941 at D-Day, I have to talk to Noah Sheathmaker online about the term, but there is a group of individuals in Native Hawaiian culture that are both priestly classed and are valued as seers. And as we know, one thing about the United States military installation, they will not believe abnormal until it hits them over the head that something exists and is true. So if you had a bunch of these priestly seers point out, hey, there's going to be a bombing, and the army ignores it, and then there is a bombing, and the army's like, well, we can't ignore it anymore. And so these causes changes going forward. One of which is FDR is treated by a low-level magic user to the point that he will actually survive the war. Patton will end up surviving the war because there's enough of the healers around that he isn't put into an immediate coma and died in a car accident. Yeah, we all know. We all know it's Eisenhower's fault. Come on. And he still loses to Truman. Um,
I have
but
all my tanks right here. We got a straight shot to Moscow.
you get
Car
me.
accident.
Yeah, it's a car accident. Yep, that he doesn't actually die and he just sits there for he dies 2 weeks later. But all of these little things will end up happening. So the history, I didn't want to start with, I mean, of course, the setting is Savannah, so I didn't want to say that history began with contact between the Europeans and the people that live in North America. I felt that that was kind of not great. So instead, I picked an arbitrary starting date of 1000 CE, and then each of the historical points that we're using are based on event points at which history would have had an effect on the people living in the area that will eventually be called Savannah, Georgia. So we're going to start in 1497, which is the founding of the first colony of individuals in John Cabot reaches Newfoundland, and it's the first point when North American in native groups would know that a bunch of white men are messing around on the continent. So what I need from you is to roll 3d6, just regular 3d6, no modifiers, and that will tell me what type of historical event this has. Okay.
14.
14. We're gonna start off fun times. This house will be interesting. 14 means a scandal. We're gonna start with a scandal. We don't know what the scandal is yet, but we're gonna start with a scandal. And what that means is I need you to roll 3d6 and give me the values for the individual die, because you will take a negative d6 to HOA, influence, and reputation because of this scandal.
Sure. A 2, a 4, and a 3.
It's 2 minus 4 minus 3. Okay. So this is what we'll do. Each of these historical events that you roll on that table will give us an event that occurs, and that will determine what the modifiers are for the individual adult events. Does that make sense?
Gotcha. Okay. I trust
So
you.
1526, and we need another 3d6.
Ready. This one's a 6.
Oh, it's not the worst. It is, however, a defeat. It is minus 1d6 to everything except reputation.
Damn. Okay. So, do you need 6 d6s? Is that what you mean? Like,
yes.
So
individuals, okay. Yeah.
So I'll roll 5 and then 1. And I'll read them off. Oh my god. Yeah, high roll in there. 6, a 2, a 5, a 6, a 6, and a 4.
But you don't lose any reputation from this. By the way, you can't actually go into negative numbers, but you can go into zeros.
I'll be circling that drain here pretty soon then.
No, it's okay. When I say that there was a cursed house, I mean that's Elaine Ryan Art on Twitter. She rolled statistical improbability of every single negative roll on the 3d6 chart that you could. Like, nice. No positive rolls whatsoever.
Awesome.
So 1566. 3d6.
Alrighty. 8.
So this is where Hawkeye gets his first count for a Doom. Doom is legitimately the worst roll on the chart. It is minus 2d6 to every stat.
Jesus. Okay, well, alrighty.
The
2d6 to every stat.
Yeah.
All right, well, what I'll do is I'll roll 2d6 6 times.
Yeah, it's 7 times.
Oh, 7 every stat. So I don't even get reputation off on this one. Lovely. All right. 1, 2. Oh my god.
6, 6.
Oh, I Please don't give me another 6. 6.
3 6s?
Yeah.
The statistical
In a row, never.
improbabilities are adding up here, guys.
Oh, he had 12, just to break it up a little bit.
You didn't need people anyways.
3 and the last one?
No, you need 2 more.
Okay, an 8. A 3.
-8, -3.
Yep. I see from the oof that it is as bad as I think it is too, as Pope reflects that in chat.
I would like to point out that right now for population, you have 1
All I've ever needed.
singular sensation. 1607. Will the 17th century be better than the 16th century? Let's find out.
Put that down. 1566. Only 1. Just remember that. 8. Okay. What was the next one? 16 what?
1607.
1607. All right. This is 3d6.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, Doom. 10.
10 is good. 10 is glory or favor. Glory.
Well, yay. Does that give me something?
Yes, it does. It gives you positive 1d6 to everything but wealth and people.
Like I said, I don't need people. This is shaping up to not me or the whatever, not needing people. Okay, let's see here. So you said it's 1d6 to everything but those 2?
Yeah, so it's 5d6 total.
All right, I'm gonna roll it all at once then. There we go. Big money. A 6, a 5, a 6, a 1, and a 1.
6, 5.
6.
Wait, hold on, I have to double check which. I'm having that moment of like, I've got 3 different tabs open. Which am I skipping? Okay, wealth and people. All right, 6, 5, 6, 1, 1. All right. Okay, you know, coming out of horribleness. 1665.
Nice. Oops. 3d6. 14.
More scandal.
Hell yeah. I let that glory go right to my head. And then
minus 1d6 to HOA, influence, and reputation.
Okay, so 3 stats.
Mm-hmm.
A 5, a 3, and a 5. Bye-bye 6s I got last roll.
You know, kinda. 1733, the founding of the city of Savannah. And James Oglethorpe bringing a bunch of folk over.
Alrighty. 12.
Ooh, invasion or revolt. It is minus 1d6 to
People?
HOA, wealth and people, and then 2d6 minus 2d6 to reputation.
Okay, so let me do the 1d6s for the first 3.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and that's a 4, a 6, and a 6. I dare you all to roll better 6s out than d6s.
Look, I have no control over what you roll.
Absolutely. And then you said that one of them
reputation is minus 2d6.
Okay, here we go. Reputation. Yeah, there's the 3. I jinxed myself.
1754 to 1763 is the small thing we like to call the French and Indian War.
Nice. I mean, if you're into that type of thing. This is 3d6.
Yep.
15.
15 is treachery. Which is
it is.
Means you get a positive 1d6 to HOA and then a negative d6 to reputation and influence.
Okay, I'll roll here's the positive one. And then here are the 2 negative ones. So the positive one is 3, and the negative ones are 1 and 5.
1 and 5?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. You know, it gave you some power. People
Did
just
it?
didn't like
Okay.
it after the fact. 1776 to 1783, a small event we like to call the American War for Independence.
That old thing.
Mm-hmm.
10.
Glory.
You know what? Every couple generations, this beaten up family gets a little glory. I like it.
So
It's been
five.
100 years, but
So a total of 5d6 positive. So for one for everything but people and wealth.
there's those low rolls I like. It is a 2, a 3, a 3, a 5, and a 4.
3, 5. Oop, 35. 3, 5, 4. Right now you're only a negative in one stat.
We'll get there. We're not up to 1945 yet.
No, we're at 1789 in the ratification of the Constitution.
This is where business picks up. All right, 3d6. 10.
Glory.
That's glory. Look at that back-to-back glory.
Same roll.
This is, what did you say, 5d6?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. A 1, a 2, a 3, a 1, and a 6.
I would like to point out right now that you are currently real land rich. Cash poor as
Love it.
Felk, but land rich.
Absolutely.
1820, in the city of Savannah was the small event called the Savannah Fire. An outbreak of yellow fever and a devastating fire that burned about 70-80% of the city.
Well, rolling a 13 has to mean something good, right?
13 is my favorite roll.
That doesn't mean it's good.
It's also could be interesting.
Sure.
So, a 13 is what we call an eccentric ruler. I don't particularly care for the terminology in the book. Basically, it means that there is someone whose capricious nature can either is just wildly out of whack for the family and can cause both good and bad. For every stat, you will roll 6 minus 2d6, which brings up very swingy. I put the equation
like
in the chat for you.
Okay. Holy
It ends up
smokes.
being very, very swingy.
And that's for each stat we're going to do this.
Yep, 7 times.
Let's do it. Alrighty. A 0. Minus 2. A 0. A 1. And then would you say just hit up and do it again?
Yep, hit
There
up.
we go.
It'll do it again, yep.
A -1, a -1. -3.
Yep.
I have one more.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and a 1. I ended with a positive 1.
Yeah. So like I said, it's very swingy, but it just means that somebody that the family was dealing with or was in charge of the family's businesses was a little turbulent.
Sure.
Decision making was complicated. 1861 to 1865, a small thing we like to call the American Civil War, or also known in certain circles as the Late Unpleasantness.
Right. 3d6, correct?
Yes.
9.
9 is favor.
Oh my god, is that a good thing?
It is indeed a good thing. It means
Nice.
a total of positive 1d6 to HOA influence, land, and reputation. So
That's
4.
4 total? Okay. A 5, a 4, a 5, and a 2.
Cool. Yeah. Land is your big asset right now. Um, 1864, in the small thing we like to call William Tecumseh Sherman's march through Georgia and the and the not burning of the city of Savannah.
3d6
Mm-hmm.
and 11.
And 11 is an infrastructure. So for this one, what we're gonna do is it's a little unique, but we're gonna do it this way. Just roll me 2d6 and give me those stats, and we'll put them to the side, and you can determine which um, you want to ascribe those two values, which stat you want to ascribe, which two stats you want to ascribe those two values to at the end.
Okay, so we have a separate 3 that can go somewhere and a +6 that can go somewhere.
Exactly.
Gotcha. All right, hey.
1893, and the Sea Islands hurricane, the seventh most deadly hurricane in recorded history. And for scale value, it's about 200, or no, it's about somewhere between 300 and 500 less loss of life than this destruction caused by Katrina.
That is a 9.
We like favor. It's a good thing. Positive, 4 positive.
Alrighty. And those are, hey, there's some 6s. A 5, a 1, a 6, and a 6.
I would like to say right now that your land is sitting at a 35.
That's good?
That's really good. I mean,
Nice.
your people is sitting your people are sitting at a -4, which isn't really a -4. It'll be forced to 0, but
it's okay. All we need is 1. All right.
1914 to 1918. World War One.
The great one. All right. A 5. That can't be good.
No, it is. It's a conquest.
Oh.
Which is another swingy result.
This is what if it's one of those things.
So it's positive 1d6 to influence, wealth, people, and land, and a minus 1d6 to reputation and magic. So
is that a
4 positives and 2 negatives.
There are the positives. A 1, a 2, a 5, and a 5.
1, 2, 5, 5.
Mm-hmm. Then you said 2 negatives, right?
Yep.
5 and a 3.
Right. 1928. I would like to point out now that we are back to positive numbers for people. You're sitting at a 1.
That's all I need. There we go.
That 1928 and Black Tuesday. How's this family dealing with the Depression?
Well, we should let's cut over and ask them. It's only 1. How are you dealing with the Depression? I don't know. Well, I can't tell that it started yet since I'm by myself.
Well, no. A 1 on the chart is not by yourself.
10,000 acres.
A 1 on the chart is not by yourself. That's a 0 on the chart. Remember, it can go down to 0. So a 1 on the chart is an individual and their spouse. So it's a married couple.
There we go. Okay. All right.
All right. So what did we get with that 3d6 roll?
It is a 13. Lucky number 13 again.
Our capricious ruler.
Yep. Caligula making a return appearance here.
Yep.
Oh my god! Wait, what is this one? This one's like this is
the 6 minus 2d6 that's in the chat.
Right.
For every stat.
For everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nice. All right. First one is -2.
Okay.
-1. -3. -4.
Oh, well, we were positive for people.
I was going to say, there goes that spouse. -2. -1. And is that it, or do I have one more?
One more.
I always lose count. -3. -3.
So the answer is the Depression was not good.
It doesn't seem that way, since apparently it's only one person's fault here. So really, there's no one else to blame.
Now it's one person's fault. They weren't married before this.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's something's going on here. We'll get to the bottom of this.
We'll eventually get there. In 1941 to 1945, how did World War II treat this individual?
I'm gonna go out on a limb here, Prax. Not great.
Look, you've rolled glory 3 times.
6. What's in? What is this, like utter devastation, doom? What is this?
No, that's 8 is doom. 6 is a defeat.
Oh, all right.
6 is defeat, which is -1d6 to everything but reputation.
All right, so let's do here 5, and I need one more. So 4, 3, 2, 3, 4.
Wait, sorry. 4, 3, 2, 3.
4 and a 6.
4 and a 6. Cool. Now we get the fun part. Well, not fun, but easy part. I need you to roll just 7d6, and because those are the bonus die that you will get to ascribe anywhere you want them.
Okay, there's 5 of them, and here are the other 2. So let me see. I can write these down to help cross them off. Can I put these in the pool with the other 2 that I had earlier?
Well, are you on the sheet?
Yes, but I'm of course using paper because I'm.
That's fair. If you look on the sheet, you see what I did is I put those here in the same column, but I was putting those 7 bold bonus dice here because you're going to put them here.
Gotcha.
The totals, so that the sheet can do the totals for us.
Gotcha.
Wow.
This is something else. This is
Right, so hey, Time, thank you for that gift sub to Volpez. So 6, 6, 5, 2, 2. Okay, wait, what was that? 6. What are they? 6, 6, 5,
2, 6, 4, and 2.
All right. So those are your stats that you can put anywhere you want. And then you've got that 3 and the 6 that you can put anywhere you want as well.
Okay. Get out the fake cigarette for this one. This is requires prop thinking.
I'm here for it.
Okay. You're gonna walk me through this because.
Okay. Well, here I have to do one thing for you.
I'll take him to 0.
Yeah, because they can't go to negatives. So right now there's only one person in the family. But all of that any change that will push you into a 1's space, the next level will push you to the next tier. But at the same time, a new value, the higher level the value, the more value you have, the more points you have to invest in that tier.
Right. Okay. So I can add these points now, like I have to obviously assign the 6 in its entirety to one of the stat things. Okay. So I really want to goof this up. So now you've established and given me before that 20 to 23 is a good initial roll.
Mm-hmm.
So what is a good ending roll? Like what would be considered, one of the more promising tiers? Like when does that start? When does 30,
the 30s are really when you start to tip over into like the higher levels. I will tell you right now that when I say that Pope is God tier, he had God tier rolls. He literally he's in, I think it's I have it right here. Why am I even making it complicated? He's at 67, 59, 63, 54, 75. He's got nothing below a 51.
What's his land?
His land is sitting at a 63.
Okay. I want to use all these points to get to a 64.
It's not possible, but you can try. Because you can only put one. You can only put one
Oh no,
die.
that was just kind of posts in chat. You
Yeah,
can only
that's
you can only
fair.
put one at a time. You can't like just you can't put it all in red or whatever. Okay.
No, you can't. You can, but you can spend that 3 or that 6 anywhere you wanted. But
Okay.
that's those ones that the value is 7 die to a lot.
Okay.
Mostly because I'm tweaking the rules slightly as they're actually written. Mostly because when they're actually written, this is all of the players are part of one, are assumed to be part of one house, and so each of the players get a die that they can choose to put where they want. But it's a set smaller value than I said. Okay, well, we're making the house the player, and versus the player character,
I got you.
and
Yeah.
so I'm saying you get 7 die, but you have to put them one for each stat.
Gotcha. 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 Okay. Well, considering Pope's roles, I'm not sure how we're living in the same neighborhood, but that's,
He
I guess,
has
part of the
multiple
story.
pieces of property.
Oh, okay. So this is okay. All right. This is the second weekend in February property, or
Well, no, he's got a larger family, so he's got multiple families. There's the family plantation in the country, and then there's the property
sure. Okay.
on
All right.
in the subdivision, and then he's got the property he owns in town. You know, the office building, and um. So full disclosure, I started building this off of a publicly available 1945 plot map for a subdivision in
Oh,
Savannah,
that's fantastic.
which
That's
still
great.
exists, and you can find it on
Oh,
Google
really?
Maps.
Can we I spy from space the plot of land that will be the corresponding house or property line of our.
Eventually, I haven't assigned anybody's house to that particular plot map
Oh,
yet.
I would love to see that at some point.
We'll pull it up.
Okay, so if I understand correctly, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you're in the higher tier. You want to have at least be it an 11 or a 21 or a
Mhm.
31. You want to be outside of that 10 range. Okay. So if I'm doing this, you
So,
know,
for example, like that 10 in HOA, any
I can't
value
get it
that
any
you,
high, right? But I
anything
don't
that
want
you
to
put,
waste a 6 on it because it's the same.
exactly. But if you put a 2 there, it'll bump you up.
Gotcha. Which is what I'm going to do. I'll put a 2 there, and that's as high as I could possibly make that.
Hmm.
Um, and then the next one I'm going to put for influence. I'm going to go ahead and drop a 6 in there for now. One of my ending roll 6s, saving
Yep.
those 3 and 6 for the end. And then my next one here is, what is this? Wealth.
Hmm.
I can't make this any better. Um, I like the idea.
They're land rich and cash poor as fuck.
Yeah, but you know why? Like, why have they always been that way? So that's the story there. So we're keeping it. I'm only going to put a 2 there
Hmm.
because even if I put a 6, I'd have to use the other 6, and
Yeah.
not worth it. And then is this the people here?
Yeah. So now, basically, they come home. Right now, there's only one person in this family, but if you any value you put it in there, will end up with them with a spouse.
Okay. Um, let's just go with that. I want just let's see. I have a 4, I
4.
believe I
Yeah.
can put in there. Make sure I'm doing that right. And then 34, I want to put a 6 in to get that to 40.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's see, I've got another 6, don't I? For
Yep. You have one more
reputation.
6 and a 5.
Okay. Give me the 6 there, which will get me to 10, but that's still technically the same tier. Well, I'll take care of that in a second. And then the 5's just going to have to go in there. I can't do anything more with that.
Yeah.
Now with the 3 and the 6, I want to use the 3 to bump up the what is it, the influence? Is it influence a second or reputation? Bump up the reputation into the next tier. So it'll should be a 13 then, I guess.
Yeah. So that'll put you at 13. And then
The only thing that the 6 can help here is
well, the land or the influence.
but land, if it took land to 46, does that help the land though?
It'll bump you up a tier, and it'll be
Oh,
you'll be.
that's right, because I'll go to 41.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, give it to land then. Yeah, that could have been more economic, but there's no way to kind of close the gaps on some of it.
No. So you end with a 12 in HOA, which is have you heard? Oh, excuse me, at 12. A little well loved, but that just adds character. So where
Okay.
you started.
And these are the final stats,
These are
correct?
final stats. A little well loved, but that just adds character. So that's where you started. Not bad. 20 in influence is exactly where you started. So the debutantes talked to you once.
Yep.
A 3 in wealth, which is a
Nice.
massive loss of wealth. You are impoverished. You lack essential resources and you know how to use food stamps.
Nice. Okay. Love
Um, a 4 in people is you and your spouse. So, given the roles, I'm thinking they came home. They came home from the war with married, or they married
Yeah,
shortly
yeah,
thereafter.
sure.
We'll figure it out exactly. A 46 in land, however, is you own your house, the land in the country, and a small office building
Oh, look at that.
in town. You can make rent. You can start renting that out and make some money, maybe.
Oh, no, I can't because I don't know if you've followed the family history. We can make it, but we aren't going to keep it long.
There,
That's just part of it.
there's somebody who's got a spending problem.
Yeah, and they apparently show up every 100 years to
uh,
wreck shit.
13 in reputation. Bless their hearts, your family's historical scandals still influence opinions, but your attempts to overcome have been noticed. One of my favorite roles. And then a 17 in magic is just about where you started with, which is certain generations have magic, but never large expressions.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, these are there we go. I was like, why? Much over here, because remember so these are the actual numbers. But now the fun part is to go back and tell you the story of what those numbers mean and how these things happened. So I guess the first question is, based on what we were talking about and the establishment of this family, the first question we have to ask is, when in this family's history did they get to the area which will be called Savannah?
Hmm. I mean, I'm trying to avoid stereotypes with like coming over with part of like the law breaking establishment that came over and was settled. But I just don't even think that with that. I don't think that they're that good.
I would like to.
Let, I don't know. I don't know.
Because that just determines, where their family starts. Because, is the family history more in the North American continent or more in the European continent or somewhere else in the world? We don't know yet. We'll find out.
Where was it? 1820 was the fire.
1820 is the fire, and that's your first capricious ruler.
That's right. That's what I thought.
And you have a small loss of land there. Your biggest loss of land is in 1566 with that big doom.
Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. Originally, because somebody in chat said it earlier, I saw mention of Highlander, and why not? That's the land that was lost back in 1566 for the Big Doom. But the way I'm thinking about it is, we go ahead.
No, keep talking. I'm just double checking, because yeah, here we go. March 18th, 1566, Mary Queen of Scots returns to Edinburgh with an army from the Earl of Bothwell, and then attempts to, seize Scotland. It leads to some bad problems that will eventually become a major problem for her.
I can think that this is probably a really bad problem for this particular family. This was not a great time. It wasn't one that was going to make it into the history books on their side of everything.
Okay, so the family. So we're saying the family's originally from Scotland, and we'll come back to where that comes in. And we're saying 1820, the family came to Georgia, Or
I'm gonna say there was the fire, and then when the fire, when literally when the smoke cleared, this family was there. No idea where they came from. They smoke clears. Family is now in town.
I like this. Family arrives in Savannah. All right. So we've got some things going, but we need to go back to 1497 when this family is originally begun. And we start with a scandal. And the book defines a scandal actually quite wonderfully. By the way, for those of you who don't know, this book I'm talking about is the Sword Chronicle book from Green Ronin Press, and is their setting agnostic system for a feudal sword and fantasy game that I'm tweaking a lot. Your family was involved in some disaster, a scandal that haunts them still. Good options include spawning a bastard, failed conspiracies, and so on. In case of your first role, the scandal created your family as a way of covering up for the crime of the scandal itself.
Okay. So a scandal born that presumably, I mean, people probably aren't still talking about, you know, back quite that far, but
I
it's
would like
something
to
that was
point
meant.
out that we still talk about Glencoe.
Okay, well, I'm not sure this family kind of hits that same note, but
We'll find out.
right. Okay, so that's where this family starts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but that's not where the family. This is where this entity, this one that seems to, occupy. Now, how crazy am I allowed to get here, Prax?
You are allowed to get quite crazy. I didn't put immortal Highlander immortals on the list of character options.
No. I won't go. I have other ways. I want to make it more to fit the setting. So,
Well, for if you look at the character creation tab on the character tables sheet, which I will reshare with you right now, just to make your life easy.
that'd be awesome.
There you go. We're not going to use human because they're individuals without magic, and we know that this family itself has magic. So the general categories are Fae, Celestials, Greater Undead, Shifters, or Magical Humans. And then within that, I had Seelie, Unseelie, Selkie, Banshee, Changeling, Dryads. Celestials were Incubus, Succubus,
You
Fallen.
had me at Banshee.
Yes. Yes, we can. Let's go for this. Yes, vampire is also on the list. Lindy made a vampire. Are you surprised?
What? Yeah, let's no. It's a Banshee. Banshee.
Okay. Did I put any? I'm checking my lore because I don't think I put anything about banshees in the lore sheet. I did put something about a couple other fake creatures, but no. Dryads, Nereids, changelings, whites, warlocks, Draugr, worship. Nope, nothing about banshees beyond the fact that they're banshees. So, let's go. Let's go. Where are we going? Tell me.
Okay, here's what I'm thinking. Okay, so William Butler Yeats, Stolen Child,
Mhm,
come away, human child, to the woodlands and the wild, and the fairy hand in hand,
mhm.
all that good stuff. So what I'm thinking, if we're going with like the Fae subset of the Banshee being part of all of this, when I meant that this family began at that point, the family that the name perhaps came from was from previous times. There was going to be a wedding, as there often is when it comes between two families that want to become a bigger, stronger family. You know,
Okay,
this
so
was
where are we
the
putting this? Is this the scandal starting?
this is the drop. This is the mic
Okay.
drop at the very beginning.
Mic drop at the very beginning. Okay.
Okay.
Arranged marriage. Or unification marriage.
Unification marriage. Correct. This was all the big three: land, power, and money. So this was
It's
it was
1497 in Scotland. This makes a lot of sense.
it had to be done. Like this was to put add weight to it. This was something that would, one, not only strengthen but also keep from there being friction among the two families, and of course there bannermen and whatnot that might also be brought into a potential fray. So, with that classic fairy tale type setting, everything's going swimmingly until the son is killed the 2 days before the wedding. The mother of the boy realizes that this can't be and won't do. And with an experience that she had as a child, she decides, because she was able to not only have an imaginary friend when she was young, she had an imaginary friend that was her when she was young. And the older that she got, she realized that was in fact not an imaginary being at all, but somebody from the land just beyond the corner. And so, in attempting, much like an elder Christopher Robins would go looking for Pooh towards the end of his life, this woman went looking for that lost land that she had had of her youth, looking for basically the wish. She was trying to find the magic that would bring her son back. Well, that magic doesn't exist, at least not to be used or utilized at her disposal. But there was a bargain that was made, and that this fine banshee here, who looks exactly like her lost child, could fill in with a little bit of training, a little bit of coaching up, so to speak, and fit into this situation and carry forth the name. But let's just say that maybe because of all of this, and because this is not the dealings of the Fey world with ours, this also brought forth a bit of a scandal, of course, in that this was a arranged marriage that would later be found out to have some kind of complications to it. I can't lending to the scandal post fact, so to speak. But at the same time, this is what kind of curses the family from the jump.
Ooh. Ooh. So we're saying that the scandal that will be publicly known is, say, perhaps a
infidelity,
an infidelity, or an inability to perform with the new married spouse.
Perhaps, yes. It's
particularly if you're,
right,
well,
one of shame, I would say, and quickly followed by a nebulous death.
A nebulous death and a quick remarriage?
Sure, yeah.
So, or, well, we can't have him, well, we can't have it not be full performance because we need to have some sort of lineage of inheritance that will come forward through this.
Okay, so this is the question that I had for you.
Yeah.
You said right now with banshees,
yeah, they're Fey.
Right. So, what is the lifespan on said banshee?
We have not determined. We've got Fey that have been kicking around for a while now, so we've also got a bunch of dryads. The smuggler pirates were run by the family of were sand tiger sharks that are out on Tybee.
Nice. Okay. So, all right. So I'm seeing potential here.
So the immortality of this particular banshee we can keep. Yeah.
Okay. Here's what I suggest, and to kind of thread this in narratively to some of the other problems that we have later on with, like Caligula-esque rulers to kind of goof everything up. There was an old poem, and I've been racking my brains to try to figure out who wrote it, but I can't. And when I get it, I'll scream it out. A banshee in and of itself shares qualities with like the phoenix, in that there is a cycle, there is a transference, there's a rebirth. Only instead of fire and all that great stuff, it's wind. The banshees were one with the wind, the winds from the north. And so, as the poem goes, much like the seasons and the strength of the wind, so too is the life cycle of the banshee, only to howl again after its death is seemingly calmed by the skies, blah, blah, blah. So I would think that this cycle that we have is the same creature, but in different seasons of its existence. And so when we have these wild spring type moments where this entity, much like the wind as it roars back, or even in the winter winds, That's where we have this eccentric ruler that comes in and tries to do too much, and it oftentimes ruins it for the other phases of this banshee. And so if that's as crazy as I'm allowed to go, I can, I don't want to
You can
create
go
lore
as
for the
far crazy
banshee,
as you
but
want. We've been going dark, we've been going crazy. I'm here for all of it. Let's
yeah,
lean into it. So we're
be,
saying the scandal is the marriage, but shortly after the marriage, is it one of those they get married and she dies shortly thereafter? In
oh no, the banshee definitely kills her.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and I mean the truth is the banshee definitely kills her because the
Wait,
banshee
kills the wife or the mother?
kills the wife. Kills the wife. Yeah, not the mother. Yeah, this kills keeps the pact with the mother. That's part of the pact. But it was never, how long do I have to be married? That wasn't part of the agreement. It was just make sure that this is consummated and this is blah blah blah. And then death because the banshee doesn't like it.
No, because the
And
banshee doesn't like it. So the reputation is only a -3. Would you say that it's fair that although there are rumors about him possibly killing his wife, it's never publicly confirmed?
right, and it's one of those things where initially there's a scandal about it, but then as the strength of the banshee's house kind of overlaps like the
Hmm.
marriage of the other side, it gets diminished to the point where it's almost there's a respect given,
Hmm.
like, oh, this was a play, so then maybe that's the only why it's a -3, that initially it's, oh my god, they there could be something going on, the spouse could have been killed, but the actuality is as the lineage goes down, they said, boy, what a hell of a play that would have been if they got away with it, and they did.
So it's never anything that could be publicly, stated. It just his wife died and under mysterious circumstances, and if you know, you know, but it wasn't like he publicly stabbed her and everybody knew it.
Right, and it's the perfect scandal. It's the one that in certain circles carries a negative connotation, and in others, more criminal elements, more, I don't know, people that are clawing, second sons and things like that, that would look at this situation and go, ah, well played, you know. So it's something that, while it's kind of damning in the public sphere, it's not that bad because you go away
Exactly.
to live at the farm, right?
Exactly. Went away to live at the farm.
The farm
Okay.
on all that
Now
land.
it is 7:15, and you and I are going to get going in this, and I'm fully for this. I just think that we should take a short break now, so
Sure.
that we can both. I need more water. I'm going to be
Oh,
honest. I'm
absolutely.
out of water. And so we'll take a short break now before we get into the next couple steps, and then when we come back, we'll find out more about this banshee and all the drama that they bring to bear on all of history. Um, but refresh, bio, do all of those good things, and we'll see you in a little bit, everybody. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We hope you're refreshed, you stretched, you got a new beverage, like I did, and are ready to dive back into this drama that we're ready to go. Um, 1526, there is a defeat.
I would think that this is the beginning. I would say at this defeat is probably where all but the let's just say that the mother that originally made the deal
Mhm.
to supplant her deceased son with this fey creature, the rest of the family, that original family that really has no direct line now, they die. This is the defeat. This is like the beginning of the end. This is the run up to the doom that's going to hit in the next sequence. But it would be during this time that I'm much older now, I would assume. She would finally kind of pass away, give up the ghost, or the rest of the family be gone. She'd be the only one left, and she'd be able to start seeing how, um, she's not going to die without knowing that her actions actively cursed the family as opposed to saving it, like she
Mhm.
believed it to be. And with her passing, thus ends the non-fey line of this house, and the actual house that we're talking about begins. And so this would be kind of like the final transition of um the humans that started it and the fey that end it.
Okay, so all right, this makes sense. Um,
Because there's pretty broad losses in the next two, as far as
yeah.
like all of our,
Okay,
and the
so
doom is really bad,
yeah,
and that's where we lose like everybody. So
yeah, it's where you go down to one person, right? Because
right,
you going from 19 minus 6, that brings you down to a 13.
I would say this. Let's
So
let's
you're
do this
still
because
at a
we still had a
nuclear
pretty
family.
right. So let's say that the mother is still alive, and let's say that the only like that would be the cousin or her nephew is still alive too. Her niece is still alive, and so it would be the mother, this banshee that is would be the cousin of this niece and nephew that were there as well, and it'll be the next phase when these younger kids are also going to leave this planet. And only the banshee will be alive. That's just to kind of clear the decks of the
Yeah.
humans.
So what is the cause of this defeat? Like, what happens? What is the actual, like, we know the result of it. This is what happens, but what is the cause of this defeat? Like, is it a defeat in battle? Is it a defeat in
I would think because of the size of the house, and I'd like to play up the fact that nothing good came from this contract. Nothing. There was nothing beneficial, at least for the humans on this side of the con. They got what they wanted in their son and the marriage and everything, but it ends up not being what they need at all. And so I would say that it's nothing grand. It's nothing like they lost it all in a failed military attempt, or they had a thriving business, or they became they lost their lands to. I think it was just the death by a thousand cuts. If we kind of take that defeat era and the doom era, um, I like to think that that's what it was. It was just a series of little events that eroded this small family to kind of begin with, down to nothing. In that, you know, like a poorly run business, inherited from someone that knew how to run it. It lasts for a little bit. It keeps going just on its sheer organizational willpower, and then after a little time, the wheels start to come off.
Okay, so that's gonna be like the whole thing getting into this doom, but the defeat itself that causes this initial everybody to die except for the mother and these two unfortunate souls and this banshee. Is this like a defeat of so 1526? What is going on in Scotland in 1526? Um, Well, James V will become full king. Um, and is currently held captive by Margaret Tudor's second husband, Archibald Douglas. Um, so there's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of drama happening with the um, Margaret Tudor's family lineage and king of, because there's this whole bit, in 15, there's the uprising and James III's brother comes in, and James IV is married to Margaret Tudor, and her son, who's a child when her husband dies, is living in France, and they're like, well, can he become king? So is the defeat having to do with like national politics level, or is it much more local? Is it a local, defeat in the sense of like just clan politics?
Let's do a little bit of both. Let's say that obviously on the national level, this is a moment of who do you declare for, who is your support for, who is your, and let's just say that the support of this family was given, but then it was when it came time to put up or shut up, it was a failure on their part to react or provide aid or follow through on whatever requests had been asked of them or whatever promises had been given by them. And that was the moment where the country's in a state of kind of political turmoil, so to speak, and then they are able to not help when it's something that they said that they would do. So I would say I'm trying not to be nebulous, but I want it to be as weak sauce as possible. Like there's nothing noble, there's nothing heroic, there's nothing grand, there's no massive, they tried to take the throne and were,
no,
thrust back or anything.
They were just vassals of the James the Fourth, and when it came time to support,
shitty ones at that,
at that, but it's also clan politics in Scotland, and and the question of, do they support the child king in James VI, whose mother is scandalously an English woman, and Margaret Tudor, or and so it's and who's been raised in France his entire life. I don't even think he speaks Scottish. He speaks Gaelic. So it's just this level of low level failing to live up to their vassal status, but at the same time probably weakened to the point that like low level raids from neighboring clans are going to destroy a large percentage of the rest of the family.
Yeah, because we're talking about a couple decades here, and this is definitely something that would like we talked about, or continuing to talk about the death by 1,000 cuts. This is the definition of that. This is when families have a grand family tree and they can finish that painting at some point because there's nothing more falling from it, nothing more growing from it. It's done. And it's a, cut print. That bad boy's, it's a wrap, everybody. And so that's what we're looking at.
So let's just say a loss of the majority.
The defeat would be the loss of the majority of their wealth and influence, in a broadly speaking, not with the statistics in the game.
So maybe in like clan raids.
Yeah, or even something where it's not even a clan associate. I mean, it could be something like thievery, brigands, bandits. That they couldn't even defend themselves against that. That's how far they had fallen, where they were, rogues could prey on them.
This deal was not a good idea.
And that's what I say would lead up to the Doom. The Doom is like the expulsion from Scotland. That's where the family name is basically all that is carried out of there. And the Banshee, unable to return home because the contract is not fulfilled yet, must carry on despite the fact that they're the only one left.
So it's the Banshee is unable to because they can't complete the contract. They can't return to the Fey realm. Okay.
Correct. Oh, and what does make it tougher or more difficult on our old Banshee here and say that the only way that the contract can be fulfilled is if the family exists and the family survives. And once it's put on paper of a generational ability to sustain itself, then the banshee can fade back into the Feywild, but only until the family can stand on its own. And they've never had a position where that's happened. Even in the glory, there's been followed by the
Utter defeats.
eccentric ruler. Yeah. So almost got there, and then
okay. So the family is expelled from Scotland. Is this okay? So here's an important question: are they expelled from Scotland by Mary Queen of Scots? It's 1566, right? Mary is coming in, returning with an army from France, and basically saying it's mine.
I would definitely say that what it would be, because it would almost be like identify the weakest gazelle in the herd here, and if you needed to get the word out that you were taking no prisoners when it came to you were offered, those that were disloyal were offered expulsion or death.
Yeah. She's doing a lot. Oh, it's also when she marries Lord Darnley. And her Mary's half brother James Stewart, the Earl of Moray, is leading a rebellion against her in Scotland. So there's a lot of are they supporting Mary, or are they supporting James Stewart, and are they forced out because of that, or so they're fighting against Mary, I guess is what we're saying here. They favor against Mary and are expelled because of that.
Sure, right. Whatever gets them, on the wrong side of immediate history.
Yeah.
What gets them on the losing it, they're too small to recover from it. And once the niece and nephew are gone, which would be right around this time, natural lifespans and whatnot. It's the banshee is forced to flee, never to return, but having to make the family whole to return back to the Fae.
Okay, so yep, welcome in, Goldrake. So cool. Okay, cool. So yeah. So I guess the next question is where do they go in 16 that we find out in 1607 they're getting some glory.
Okay,
if they've left Scotland, where are they headed?
Okay, so I'm narratively trying to think about this as to structure this up. If this banshee is in a situation that, especially this early on in it, with the kind of the immortal quality of the banshee, just got out of a very bad situation. They know what they have to do. There doesn't seem to be any way to do that right now. So why not live a little? And I think this is going to be a theme for the banshee, and that, you try for a generation or two to get this thing going again, and it doesn't work, and you think, the hell with this. I want to go be a pirate. And
I mean, 1607, that you could be a lot of pirates.
Right. And I'm thinking that somebody that could, manipulate the wind might have a fair shot at something like that. So, I think that's where the glory comes from. Nothing with the family. There's a family of one at this point, and so there's definitely some gains that are made here.
Yeah, particularly after you're down to, well, I mean, technically there's a spouse. You're not permanently at one yet.
Sure, yeah. And I mean, again, I would think that this is, you hate to tread Pirate Roberts. I would think that this is something where again, part of the cyclical nature of this kind of structure that we're building up here, the banshee tries, really, really tries, gets a husband or gets a wife, and it doesn't, with this when the spouses come in, it just never seems to work. Works for a little bit, but as the dice will tell us, not for long. There's one or two, and then that's it. There's never, it doesn't grow. The only good time we had, I think, where we were back up to four, maybe, or maybe only three, was the time right before the events of the game. It's like from what 20 something to 41 is okay.
Yeah, it's like
So
you're at 19. You started this history at 19, which was a nuclear family. So
right, okay,
um
okay, yeah. So yeah, basically, anytime a spouse pops up, it is the banshee
attempt.
attempting to restart. And then as the dice say, like, 15, 20 years later, that spouse is gone. And so whether it's, and again, I don't want to put this on the banshee either. I want to say that this is part of that curse. It's part of that, it was the mother came forward to replace the child. That's against all manner of, the rules between the worlds. And because of the stolen child kind of working in reverse here, this is what brings on all this. So it's almost an unwinnable situation for the banshee, but set it up where there might be a way for the banshee to get out of this. But
Okay.
These rolling through here doesn't work too well.
So leads to a very important question. Where are they a pirate?
Excuse me. I would say that this would have to be the Caribbean.
Okay.
Because this puts them in the theater that we're eventually going to, end up in 1820.
Yeah.
And so
Okay. I like that. So this land that they gain, this massive bump in land, that is this a gaining their own ship kind of thing, or do they have a physical physical land that they gain as part of this as well?
Yeah, if we're talking about land here as kind of like property,
Yeah.
just the ability to accumulate non-wealth wealth,
Yeah.
I would say that that's what we're looking at here. We're looking at, this is an accumulation of whether it be, land in the air quote new world that is kind of seated in the forms of like an island here that he later trades for, this stretch of farmland or this trade route or this, it because the land really doesn't go away from this point. It kind of builds from this moment. I would say that this is a trading up. Everything's an upgrade. Starts with the ship. The ship becomes three. The three becomes a fleet. The fleet becomes a port. The port becomes a, and it just constantly rolled until 1820.
Okay, so owns an island, and I'm gonna make it off the coast of I need to look at a map. Hold on.
Yeah, that could even be if you want to keep that one the entire time, that could be the land in the country. We never really specified
where the country is.
Right.
Well, it's because there's the thing about Savannah there is a bunch of islands just south of Savannah and the island of Tybee itself. But like if you want to get into like St. Catherine's Island and a bunch of the islands that are further down in Sapelo and the wildlife management area and Little St. Simeon's Island, Sea Islands, there's a whole bunch of sea islands that come along the coast just south of the mouth of the river. And I think like that is also due west of Bermuda, just north of the Bahamas, so it's a nice little tuck away,
a nice little hideout, nice little HQ, if you will.
It's a good place that you could do some raiding of a lot, particularly if we're looking at your dates in 1607, you could do some serious raiding of like the English trade ships coming out of Virginia, coming out of the Carolinas, and then just hide yourself into the basin in South Georgia along the coastals.
I'm reminded of one of the greatest games of all time, Assassin's Creed Black Flag,
True.
where a very similar circumstance set up where there was a nice little offshore um, port of call, so to speak, where you could hide your boat, all that good stuff. So,
Yeah.
um, cool. Yeah, that would definitely be the glory. Um,
So
let's see.
we are in a the glory is definitely in a okay, since we have this question of the rest of the family was Scottish. We're not assuming any nation state for the Banshee, but would it be possible to say that, you know, as a coastal raider, you are you being targeted in your choice of ships, or do you not care? Like, are you is there a desire to go after more English ships or more Spanish ships, or do you just take an equal opportunity, mess everybody up?
I think what because at this point the Banshee would not have a kindness for the English. Um, I would say that any time that there was piracy about, um, the Banshee would deliberately fly the English flag just to cause problems, just to promote privateering or something of that nature as being the root cause of the. And then of course if he goes after equal opportunity pirate, but he changes flags to throw the most chaos, and so the Banshee, whether she's doing this or doing that, it's always, oh, here comes our enemy to act as this pirate.
Yeah, I like this idea. I like this idea. We're equal opportunity, but at the same time, let's fuck with the English.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what you do. All right. So 1665 and a scandal.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Let's see. I think I get people here somehow.
You don't lose any. No, but a
Don't
scandal
lose any people.
you lose power, wealth, and influence.
Okay.
Well, you lose HOA,
would,
wealth, and influence.
I would say this is when their spouse that they had begins to no, you know what? I would say that this would be a child, because technically we only have one, right? Am I allowed to do that? Can I have trade off a spouse for a child,
Yeah.
as if the spouse passed away? Because we have too big of a gap there. We have like 8 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say that this would be, the child that the Banshee had with the spouse from the earlier glory sequence. I think the scandal here would be, because I think they're gone by the next one, right? I'm back down to one. Oh no, I still have more. Okay.
13. Okay, so 6 and 12 is 18. So you were, yeah, you get down to the 0 in the next 1733.
Okay, so the scandal here, I believe, would be this would be the ending of the pirating days. Okay, this is when the glory days of this particular pirate is now over, and they are forced to basically look at different directions. But the scandal associated with it here is the prestige and the kind of the interconnected network of piracy and fencing and passing on of goods and black market trade and all this good stuff. That is sundered by the child.
Ooh.
And the child with a sense of nobility, correct nobility, something probably not received from the Banshee, informs the authorities, not only of the piracy, but of many of the pirate haunts. The only place that is left out because of the family association is our little island that we talked about. And
okay.
It is because of this that everything is lost, as far as and this leads into, I want to set up the invasion and the revolt and the treachery that is to follow, as the Banshee would realize that there's no way to go back. The code's been broken. The honor among thieves has been sundered, and so the Banshee, if you can't beat them, join them. agrees to go with the thoughts and wishes of the child and go this more noble path of actually working with the English and the Spanish to find these other pirates and kind of root them out. Thinking again, this is the Banshee trying to figure out a way to make this work, and
Well,
the Banshee with this.
particularly if we
Yeah,
say like it's you know, even if like what if the kid is if the child that they get from with their spouse that they meet at this point, well, they have the glory point, but then you've got, like you said, 58 years to get to 1665. um so let's say they don't have a child right away. Let's say the child is in their 40s.
right.
Do they have a religious awakening and conversion?
Yeah, it would be
The child, not the banshee.
right. Exactly. That I would say that this is exactly what you because hand in hand with the time of piracy was the beginning of you talk about religion. You have people that are going on pilgrimages, and you have people that are going on ministries and things like that are going to bring the word and spread the word. Religion has such a powerful influence over at this particular time.
And particularly
um
with 1665, where it's just after Cromwell has gotten his butt kicked in the restoration of the monarchy. So there were a bunch of
right.
Puritans leaving England and coming to the New World.
I think it'd be the exposure to that. The obviously the antithesis for all puritanical behavior would be that of the pirate. Uh, the loss of order, the rise of chaos, debauchery, all that great
Mm-hmm.
and wonderful things. And I think that that's what causes the turn. And I think that this is the Banshee, not necessarily. Banshee knows it's not going to work. The Banshee knows that this child is not going to bring the family back, but this is the Banshee not wanting to give up quite yet, and kind of goes with the child, turns on the pirating world, and begins this additional movement. Um, and I would say too that I would think that being an offspring of a Banshee would at least give this person a little bit of longer life.
Yeah,
So yeah, we're going to keep them around a little bit.
that's cool. You can keep around. I'm here
Mhm.
for it. Um,
Exactly. Banshee
so
Witness Protection Program.
1733 is an invasion or revolt. Um, if we say that this piece of property that they are maintaining is in the Sea Islands, those coastal islands off of the delta in Georgia, would this be perhaps just the arrival of James? Because like 1733 is the colonization of Georgia, and well, the charter creation of Georgia, and the agreement between James Oglethorpe and the Creek Indians to establish a unified settlement in what is the city of Savannah. So if you've got like this pirate hideout, you now got a bunch of established authority moving in, making it, you know.
How strictly do we have to define invasion or revolt?
We don't. I mean, that's the thing. It's like we've been really kind of flexible about a lot of these things. If I give you what the book defines it as, an invasion or revolt marks a period of collapse, destruction, and ruin. Most of these results come from external invasion or from an enemy house, but it can also stem from a period of inept rule that led to a widespread commoner revolt. Invasion revolt as a first, so
Okay, and this is where we go down to zero with people, correct?
yeah. And this, yeah. Well, no,
Okay.
actually you go down to zero. Yes, it's where you go down to zero with people.
Okay. So here's what I would suggest. This is where the
Mm-hmm.
child's going to die. And this is not a death of old age, as we established before, probably a longer lived
Mm-hmm.
being, maybe not as long as the Banshee, which whatever recorded time that would happen to be, but roughly a lot longer than what a human would live, especially in these times. Um, I would say that this is where this person, this child, is killed. But I would say if we can define, it's a period of ruin and whatnot, but instead of a revolt, it's almost a revolutionary behavior.
Hmm.
Um, they had been working. They kind of had established that this family was, helping to rid the world of this. Is where they kind of established that they're, were at least on the up and up after several decades. Um, I would say too that with the mention of the native peoples that lived there, I think that that's the tie-in. I think that that is where the banshee would have felt the most. I think the banshee would feel the most familiar with a culture that was closer to nature than the one that they have been placed in. You know what I mean? This it's there
Definitely
is
the English in
more.
1733 are not going to be as open or welcoming as,
Right.
well,
And I think that the revolution or the revolt here is that the island that the banshee and the family kind of owns by the child is opened up as a safe haven
hmm.
for anybody that is fleeing persecution. But this is also for native peoples that are also suffering from expulsion from ancestral lands, things like that. um, and this draws the ire of the powers that be, and they can't have this type of settlement. It undermines the rules. So a message is sent: revolutionary behavior, you will be treated as such.
Okay. And so particularly if we go, like, Koldrick specifically mentions James Oglethorpe comes in 1733. He founds the colony, make through contract, and he most of the time keeps the treaty contract with the Creek Indians that are in the area, and but he also fears the Spanish that are in St. Augustine, and also there was a colony in South Carolina of Spaniards that had just been relatively recently forced out of South Carolina. So he goes back to England and comes back in 1736 with a large army presence from the English crown to kind of force, to be a protective force against the Spanish. So I think that also a just a level of, like, you're not towing the line kind of thing would be draw the attention of that kind of force.
Right, right. And this would be also, this is somebody that if they are willing to offer safe haven or
Hmm.
this type of, I mean, really dissension, is going against what this could be somebody that could be, and if they aren't already, could be friendly with the Spanish. I mean, there could be a tie in there where this is, not necessarily somebody that we would count as maybe as loyal as what we expected. They are not in service to the crown. Or the simple proclamation, that could be the end of that.
Well, pretty sure they're not loyal to the crown
No.
in 1733. So is this message sent? Is this a do they just raid the island and kill the child, or is it an arrest and public execution?
Yeah, I was going to say it's an arrest. In fact, I would, in a way, I would think that they would have an idea of where the island is, but not wanting to allocate resources to, finding it or, making an example. That, I mean, even if moving troops in and things like that, a Marine type of situation, wait for him to come to the mainland and they got the son.
All
Put the
right,
son
so
on trial.
arrested in Savannah.
Or the child. I'm not sure if I'm.
Yeah, we'll come back, and
there
that's
we go.
that's
Yeah.
why I just leave, all caps, so that we can go back and we'll put names into who these are. And in Savannah,
Correct.
and tried and executed. The Banshees fucking went down too bloody. Didn't help the loyalty argument. To be fair, every I mean, if you don't know my personal opinion and views on the English government, hi, my family's from the west of Ireland. I'm not going to be I'm never pro-English government here. All right, so 1754 to 1763 is a treachery where there's a loss of influence and reputation, but a gain in power. And given, like, this is only 20 years after the child dies,
this is one of the reboots right here.
yeah.
We're getting into a situation that I like because we have two glories in a row coming up here, and then of course the eccentric ruler part comes out, which we'll get to. But I think the treachery is, and again, if I can define it as such, I think the treachery would be where there's a lot of loss of was it land and
no, it's just influence and reputation, but you gain HOA or power in this case.
Okay, so here's what I would say that happens at that point. This is the long con, and because the Banshee is long lived, this is where the beginnings of independence, is not at the beginning of this, isn't on the wind, but we're getting closer. We're there are papers that are starting, is this really, their questions are being asked about, the relationship with the crown.
Particularly if we shift the event to after like we'd say 1763, but we can shift it to a little bit later and have it actually be coming in right as part of England's response to the French and Indian War, which, by the way, lost them a shit ton of money, and that's when they started to tax the fuck out of the colonists, and the colonists were like, no thank you. We don't want to pay.
I don't understand. The colonists were so ungrateful. There was a police force that was sent out there, and that police force needs to be fed and equipped and everything.
And right? Stationed in people's homes and...
Well, I mean, where else are they going to stay, Prax? I mean, you can't expect these are fine boys in red to... I mean, General Braddock has gold somewhere, right?
Yeah, in his mouth.
Right. Yeah, because I noticed that too, that we have up until the Revolutionary War, whenever. So yeah, this is the backing of independence. This is something that started off as, again, like mentioned in chat, fuck England. This is a mentality that I think the Banshee would strongly support. When this looked like it was gaining a little bit of momentum, there's a little bit of smoke, they'd be sitting over there. Yes, this is a great idea. I'll help. How do you want me to help?
Fanning incendiary dialogue at this point. Excuse me. Amongst the rabble. Because, that's a big thing that you're going to get at this point. And, technically, Georgia, a larger number of people in Georgia are going to be, well, a larger number of landowners in Georgia were considered loyalists, but they weren't all, and actually a large number of them end up staying. So then that leads into 1776 with the glory that you come out of this with, and that's when you gain more land. And I guess the question is, at this point, is this glory on the battlefield? And is this, given the fact that we've established them as a kind of naval individual, is this a naval glory or a land infantry glory?
Oh, absolutely, on the water. And again, I like the comment in chat. You have a creature of the air that was forced off of from their land, onto the water. Putting down roots would be a big deal. I think that's exactly what we have at play here, especially with the long buildup, the long con, if you will. Only something that the Banshee totally believes in, so it's not really a confidence. But with these two kind of periods of glory associated directly with the American Revolution and the establishment of the United States and whatnot, with the constitutional conventions and all that lovely stuff, I would say that this is the beginning of where this this family has been absolutely smashed to this point, and there's still troubles ahead. But this is where the clawing up and the gaining of the land actually becomes the jewel in the crown of this family, as the banshee truly begins to start it up, to take in earnest to try to get out of this contract, but also begins to have a bit of an investment in this family.
Okay, and begins to have.
And to be quite honest, probably for the Americas as well, for the idea that is America, not necessarily the implementation of what is America, but the idea is.
It's a really good marketing plan.
It is.
The execution needed a lot of work, but the marketing plan was real good.
Right.
So, glory in naval battle, probably against the British Army, just in and around Savannah, right? In and around the colonies, leading up to Yorktown. And then that you've gotten that influence and reputation. And that magic gains a boost here in that magic as well. So,
correct.
So,
with the boost in magic in both this one and the next one, correct? Don't I get like a back-to-back magic boost?
You get back-to-back glory.
Yep. So with this magic boost that's coming into play here, this is all heading towards the 1820. Okay. So this period of time, and again, I don't want to gloss over any specific area, but the idea here is, and yeah, it was said in chat, the Banshee has hope. Yeah, that's what we're getting. Yeah, the Banshee thinks that finally they have something rolling here. Things are moving downhill. It's getting a little bit easier to kind of get these resources and kind of putting them into appropriate and proper use. And so as the magic begins to return here, I would say that this is the Banshee actually preparing the family, despite, we don't have any gains in actual people at this time, but the name, this is where the Banshee finally realizes that people, yes, for a family, you need that. You need to have legacy and all that, but it's the name that needs to mean something for the family to be able to have the ability to continue and grow and build off of the past and all that good stuff. So I would say that this is where the magic is being used to influence the positive outcome. We said that, the magic, because of its ultimate, how it ends up, it skips generations and it can't really do too much. But I want to say that any kind of prominence that the Banshee has at this time, it's almost like a reconnection with that magic, that the ability to kind of conjure and course events.
Would it also be fair to say that this is a return of the Banshee from a more settled, earthbound lifestyle to a lifestyle at sea? That it's a gain of power for that Banshee in just a change of element, and it's a lot easier to gain power from the wind on the open ocean.
Right. And I think this would be the time when the Banshee realizes that there's no way to get where they need to be without using that power. It's been kind of like, okay, well, I'll play by your rules to this point. I can help my ship out or do this or that every once in a while to make myself go fast. But this is when the magic is actually starting to be used to direct the course of this family's name. To, instead of guiding by the stars and giving that little bit of extra wind power, the course is now fate. And, the sextant has been placed upon this particular chart.
Okay.
And
all right, I see where this is going. I liking this. All right, so all right, 1820.
This is it. Okay.
Yeah. By the way, this is where you go from 0 to 1, for a brief period of time.
Right. Okay. So here's what
this is where you get another spouse.
Right. This is the time of the fire. and then the fire hits, and then all of a sudden, the
Mhm.
family is just there. They weren't there before the fire; they're there now. Um, to kind of give a background for it, during the you talked about how so many loyalists were in Georgia. I would say that as a reward for you know deeds done
Mhm.
throughout the course of this early nation's history, some of these seized lands were ceded to our guy, our banshee, and they then ultimately, acquire this plot or whatever it
Mhm.
is in Savannah.
Um.
And I would say too that I want to just place them in town, but almost like there was a family living on that plot, but the fire hit and then their property was destroyed, and that family's just no longer there. And it was kind of weird how it was explained. They all died, and there's nobody to, and this family, different name, different everything, shows up and just owns the plot. And so I would say that for several generations, that was probably an interesting kind of talking point around town, that this family literally just sprung up, you know.
Mhm. Yeah. So, as reported in the Georgia Historical Quarterly, March of 1939, the Great Savannah Fire of 1820, on the night of January 11th, 1820, between 1 and 2 o'clock, a fire broke out in Savannah in Boone's livery stable back of Mrs. Platt's boarding house. There was been no rain for months. A high northwest wind blew sparks and the burning embers onto other buildings, and within minutes the city was faced with an uncontrolled and devouring conflagration. I like this
A
writer.
wind, you say?
Mhm. Burning itself out when it reached the Baptist Church Square. It turned and swept to Bay Street on the corner of Barnard. When it reached Market Square, it set off two explosions of gunpowder illegally stored there, which demoralized firefighters and scattered the flames in all directions. Uh, Not until 2 o'clock the following afternoon did the fire spend its fury and die down. The area burned over, extended from Bay to Boughton Streets and from Jefferson to Abercorn. Um, it is. How big an area is that? Yeah, and nobody knows. It just. The fire just started.
Boy, crazy.
Uh,
Um, here's okay. If I'm allowed to do whatever I want,
you are
and
allowed to
this
do whatever you want.
okay, yeah, he started the fire. The banshee started the fire. But it wasn't for the reasons to be suspected. Um, we're coming off of several decades. Well, yeah, several decades of using magic. The
Mm-hmm.
magic has popped back into the banshee's life. It is actively using the magic to dictate the course of this family. And the banshee has a new spouse. And this spouse that comes into existence, the banshee is through having spouses die on them, you know and it's not supposed to be cold or callous, and it's not supposed to be an act of preservation or anything like that. This is more of, I need to be able to get something done. I can't have this human essentially dying before I have a chance to actually get the ball rolling. And I can only imagine that if you're an immortal, it's very hard to adjust your schedule. I only have 20 years to do this. Are you crazy? I mean, that's a lot. It's a lot to kind of fit in for 2 decades. Um, so I would say that this whole setup was them trying to use their magic to extend the life of the spouse. And I would say at this point, I want to start this moment as being kind of the beginning of whatever you all have for the during the actual campaign. I want this to be the start for this particular house. That with the magic that was used, the banshee was able to not get the immortality for the spouse that they had so desired, but they were able to get a hint. They had been lost. The contract in and of itself was very mysterious. There was, I have to make this I have to make this family work. I keep spouses are dying. Children are dying. I can't make a house with one person. This type of conundrum. And it was a communication. This is no magic other than a statement. No magic other than words. No magic other than a message. No immortality. No wealth. No power gained from this moment, except this: that during this moment that initially kicks off the fire and ravages the city, a message is sent from whatever power that be that created or solidified or authorized the contract so many, centuries ago at this point. Um, and it just simply says this: a century and a quarter, no less, no more. Your wish will fly, but not a moment before. And so that would be 125 years from this moment, which would be 1945. And so,
Okay, look, I need you to go ahead and write that wonderful phrasing down in on the sheet, because I could not type fast enough to do it for me.
I will. I have it down in shorthand, and then when we're done, I'll put it in there.
Okay, good. So, because I'm gonna need that. All right. So it gets a hint.
And basically, after all this time, a hint is given that addressing it as help is on the way. Something's going to happen. Just a century and a quarter, and that is for the Banshee not too long.
No.
I can do a century and a quarter. I mean, that's easy time.
By the time we got to 1820, you've already been here for 320 years.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this stretch, we can do another stretch. We can do another stretch here, another fair piece. I want to make some tweaks to the eccentric ruler part too.
Okay, go right ahead.
I want to say that there's definitely a loss across the board of everything that's going on here, but this eccentric ruler isn't somebody that's and we were joking, and I was joking earlier about it being kind of like a Caligula type of eat, drink, and be merry, f everything, blah blah blah. Here goes all the money. I want to say that this time, anytime that we have the eccentric ruler at the 1820 for the fire, and then again in 1928, leading up to our last kind of jaunt before the World War II, this is initially the Banshee almost forgetting everything else and becoming singularly focused on this promise of a century and a quarter. What does that mean? I must be ready for it. And so, like any good thing, like when you're given a huge assignment, especially one that you're passionate about, you usually jump right in. And those first couple of days, boy, oh boy, you're all over it. And then you slow down a little bit, and then you take, you do editing. Those first 6 chapters came really fast, and they're great. But you know what? I'll just fine tune those. The rest of those chapters will come. They'll be real easy. Well, you have 6 chapters for 10 years. So I would say that it's at that beginning and that end point are the Banshee kind of initially, what can I do? And then realizing I still have some time here, and then kind of ramping that up again the closer we get to 1945. Yes, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And I'm sure that's what anybody that's passionate about something soon realizes.
Sort of. Or if they don't, they will eventually.
Eventually, they'll realize.
Okay. And so that accounts for, you don't lose, you're mostly neutral on this event. You do gain a little bit of magic and a little bit of, there's another person in here. So like maybe another, spouse,
right.
Or, whatever you want to say. You do lose a little bit of land and a little bit of reputation and influence. So, the land could just be, hi, there's a fire. Right. There's a big fire. And that little bit of reputation and influence could just be,
right. But going by what the dice, and they did the dice didn't give the banshee much, but the dice did give the banshee land, and
Hmm.
so that's what we have to lean into here for the story. And so the banshee would then take, you know, from the Civil War through to
Yeah.
yeah, the Sherman is inside there and everything, but this is where the most accumulation of land occurs.
Yes.
And this would be the banshee who, comes a creature of a magic land, a creature of where the land is magic, is celebrated, is a place of the borders and the shadow and everything that makes up everything comes from these places. So um I think that the course of action would be the more land that I can get, the more land that I can claim, the more land that I can sanctify or prepare or get ready for this century and a quarter that is coming up, the better. And so that is why the only positives really to come out of the next 100 and some years, 125 years, would be the accumulation of land.
Okay. I like this. 1861 and the American Civil War, where there is a favor. Um, so the question I have to ask is this favor with Confederate states or the Union?
Absolutely not. No, 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 no. The banshee would never. I would say that the banshee is somebody that would use politics from this point forward. Now, before that, there's a potentiality that the banshee would be utilizing nation states, like we mentioned with the flags and things like that, for their own benefit. I think now, though, that because of the success of the American Revolution, the long con that we had the banshee kind of, you know, do during the lead up there, I think that this is a John Brown type of situation as far as the banshee is concerned. This is the banshee that would uh, see the atrocities of slavery by especially being in this stretch of the world and having witnessed a lot of by this point, especially if the island was issued as a sanctuary or a safe haven before,
Mm-hmm.
would have seen the forcible migration of these native peoples that, as the expansionist has occurred here for the different, I mean, the land grabs, the agricultural boom, and all those things that were kind of occupying traditionally ancestral lands. I think that there's no way that the Banshee would have sided with the Confederacy. This would have been an almost the favor would have come from the fact that this was somebody that would be working with the Union, that would be working with the North, and this is why they would benefit after the war. This is why there was a continued, at least in the appropriation or the collection of land, that there would be continued boom, and so
Um, so we know the things I established in the lore, and it ties into the historical event. So William Tecumseh Sherman comes marching through Georgia and burns a big chunk of it on his march to the sea from Atlanta to Savannah. However, he does not actually burn the city of Savannah. Now there are twofold reasons for that. Number one, Sherman isn't actually besieging the city of Savannah. He's a little further north and working his way up to already spin up to Charlotte, and one of his commanders is in Savannah. And number two, the Union knows that Savannah is a port city and they want to keep the port to then become a pincer movement against Virginia and the Carolinas and have a port to put in the Navy there. But one of the things that I made as part of this is the historical event is that a number of aldermen and the mayor and a couple ladies of fine repute, actual statements, ride out of the city and say, "Hi, we'll surrender the city, just don't burn it." Um, and what I did is I put one of the Fae in that grouping, um, as kind of a way to subtly encourage Sherman's commander to not burn the city. So would it be fair to say that perhaps the Banshee was reporting to Sherman about things and as working with Sherman on at various points and other points, at least during the march to the sea?
as detestable as I find that march for some of the things that occurred, yes, I think he would absolutely the Banshee would absolutely be working with Sherman to, especially if it meant kind of peripherally saving the city in which they
Okay.
had established presence.
At least nominal. Worked as an informant to Sherman and other Union troops. Like, yeah, slavery, bad. Confederacy, not good. Sherman's actions during the March to the Sea, really not good.
Right.
There's a
But I mean, again, in the situation
yeah.
And the history that you provided and the context that was in there, in making those decisions at this point, again, this would be like backing the revolutionaries.
Yeah.
You know,
And
pre
and we said that this banshee believes the idea of America, and
right.
this is a publicly liberating army come to free the slaves publicly. Uh, Sherman. Well, Sherman may have, but other people didn't. All right, so 1864, there is this infrastructure boost where you gain all of this land and a little bit of reputation. So, and we said that he's, gaining more land in this appropriation after the war or during the war. Would it be, would this infrastructure boom just be further gaining of land and possibly, just turning around and working with the people who are still in Georgia after or in Savannah in the area after to kind of help deal with Sherman and the aftermath of Sherman?
Right, right. And I think that that's exactly what it would be, because this isn't, the land has, you can't leave the land, you can't bring it with you.
Yeah.
And so, in the land needs to be protected, and the people of the area around here, they need to be, you need to be neighborly,
Yeah.
And so, during this time where there was an acquisition of land and things like that, I would think that the Banshee would do everything possible to avoid like the northern sympathizer, carpetbagger type of situation, even though they're from the South. That type of mentality, not necessarily playing both sides.
But
I mean,
he
actually, in a way, yes, but I mean,
but at the same time, it's like, I gotta live here, y'all.
right, right. But there's standards to that level of, I want to get along with everybody. Obviously, people that would be still so adamant about slavery and things of that nature, that would be people that he wouldn't, or the Banshee wouldn't focus on anyway. But it would be just a communal type of thing, where at the very least, back in a day where, even after the Civil War, where politics could be very divisive, there could still be constructive conversation. And I think that that's the line that the Banshee would walk. Can't lose what's been built so far. Can't take the land with you. Make this work. And if you can, gather some like-minded souls, so be it.
Okay. 1893 and the Sea Islands hurricane. This is where I tell you that it is the seventh most deadly hurricane in recorded history. As I said, it's just below, like, less than 300 deaths total than Katrina. A much smaller population density, which just tells you how widespread the damage was. And I should also point out that we've already established that there have been a number of other groups of people of supernatural leanings who all have claimed that the hurricane was supernaturally created, but they didn't do it, they just appropriated it for their various ends.
Yeah, if
So
that's the case,
know
right,
that it has been supernaturally created.
Sure. And I would think that a wind a storm of that size that was magically influenced would definitely ping the radar of the Banshee. But I would say that the Banshee had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, I didn't think so, but it was just I think they're aware of it.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that this would be the first, one of the first, um, other than you established too that there was a Fae placed into the contingent that went out and met with Sherman's commander to kind of, you know,
Yeah,
subtly influence the
there
decision not to burn.
there is a family of Unseelie in the area. There's also a family of dryads who have a supernatural refuge that's tied to the treaty that established Savannah. Like the trees must remain, and if the trees ever wither and fail, then Savannah will fall and beneath the waves, kind of thing. But the yes, the Lafayettes.
Nice.
Yes, French Unseelie Fae hanging out. But they're doing their own thing. They're not going to bother a Banshee. But so what are we saying? So the Banshee knows that it's supernaturally created, but they didn't do it.
Right. And I would think too that this would probably be, especially in this area of the globe. I don't think it would probably, I think this would definitely be the biggest representation or example of magic probably that's been witnessed, if not since the time on this plane, but definitely since the time in the Americas. I can't think of another instance where we've talked about there being something of this magnitude.
No,
So
definitely not.
I would think that if anything during this time in witness of that, I think that the Banshee, again, going back to chat, mentioning hope's a dangerous thing. Yes, it is. And I think this would fuel the hope that the Banshee sees, that the Banshee would be like, you know what? There's others. We're gaining steam. There's examples of, I've never seen this before. And if you're reading the signs or thinking of fate or destiny, you're thinking, oh, we're getting closer to that 1.25 century, a century and 25. This is a sign. This is a very good sign that things are starting to move. Things are happening. Help might be on the way. I might be able to get home soon. And so I think that this would definitely be seen not for something that it isn't, but definitely too much for what it is. There's magic in this. It must mean, that this is happening. So I think that this was false hope that
Okay.
came at this time.
Well, particularly after what's going to happen next in the next two attempts. But what is the favor? What do they do to gain favor?
This is going to be the final push. This is one of the bigger land grabs that we have here.
Yeah, and it's also a massive boost to both power and reputation. Or influence. Or influence and, well, small boost to influence, but a massive boost to reputation.
You know what? I would think that this would be a time where the Banshee might finally make their presence known. And not to, obviously, the Muggles,
Yeah,
but
the
to
mundane.
to the other people, the dryads and the people that are around. This is the final push. He's getting down to, the Banshee's getting down to the final couple decades, which would be like, 6 months before the big day, type of thing. And so the Banshee's really kind of trying to focus in on this, gather allies, gather resources, gather knowledge. And I think that the Banshee's successful during this period. I think that they're the greater magic community, the inclusion of the Banshee in the greater magic community really is a boon. Is the final part.
All right. Including the witches. Who have
I do like the idea
store.
that Coldrick put in chat too, and Sphinx put in there, that this could have been something. The storm could have also wiped out some of the potential blackmail, or so, like evidence of piracy or some of those things. Yeah, and I think that could have been an inadvertent, easily plays into that hope scenario where it's seen as a sign. All favors beginning to finally move in this
Particularly
family's direction.
particularly because it's the Sea Islands hurricane, and we've established that one of the original properties of that piracy era was this one of those sea islands. And so if you've just got an island that's been scoured by a hurricane, a lot of things that you may have been
Right,
hiding are don't have to worry about right now.
right, right. Yeah. Somebody just shook the Etch a Sketch because I'm super old. That's the reference that yeah.
Okay. Um 1914 to 1918 is a conquest. So boosts in everything except reputation takes a big hit, and then magic. This is the point where you start to lose a lot of magic.
Right. And I think that's why. I think that with this conquest and this loss of magic, also, what else do we lose?
No,
Uh,
you gain in everything else except HOA. So you gain in influence, wealth, people, which puts you back to being married again or having a descendant of some sort. And
yeah.
also in more land, but you lose reputation and magic.
Okay. Here's what I think that we're going to do because magic steadily goes away.
Mm-hmm.
We lose quite a bit of magic from this point forward.
Mm-hmm.
I am going to say that the Banshee, in a weird playoff of the contract's initial inception, when the mother wanted to go to the Fae and say, "Bring my son back. I need my son back." For many reasons, make it happen. Well, we can't do that. We can't. Well, we may be able to, but we're not certainly not doing it for you. We're not bringing your son back for you, but we can provide you with this exact replica. Um, I would think that the loss of the magic here is the Banshee putting this to use, like siphoning off some of their own innate magical abilities and if you allow this to happen, um, and whether it would be summoning or some type of soul retrieval, bringing back the other members of the family, the ones that have preceded in death, the child that was executed by arrest, for being, quite frank, too noble, the spouses that died before their time, bringing these ghosts back, all the way back to the mother that initially did the contract. And with these ghosts that the Banshee is literally putting themselves into, using bits of their magic heritage, to kind of summon and seize and bind these ghosts to the land. That's he needs the family. Banshee needs to bring them all in, get them started so the future and posterity can be summoned. And so it takes the full Mount Rushmore of everybody that the Banshees basically dealt with to this point, to have this kind of spectral roundtable that they're going to use from this point forward until their magic is essentially tapped. They still have a little bit, but it's they're spending quite a bit to
It's also
make
they're
this happen.
kind of working against their own nature by summoning and bringing back the ghosts of the dead instead of
Correct.
burying spirits to the dead.
Right. And that's why I'm saying that's the sacrifice.
Yeah.
Because of the very nature of the Banshee and the very nature of the whale and all of that great stuff, it is being used to call them home. And so for maybe the first time in centuries, the Banshee sings. And when the Banshee sings, these ghosts from the past, these souls that have been sent away too early before the family was formulated, come back and reverse the polarity.
Yeah.
And so, with this draw, and even if if we're watching this as a movie, um, like Coldrick says, reverses the polarity. This would be one of those great moments where if you've ever heard somebody sing while inhaling, that's what we get the Banshee. As the Banshee is not projecting, the Banshee is drawing. And so
I love
armed
this.
with armed with a family of cursed ghosts. The
Okay,
Banshee is preparing for 1945.
okay, so what is the conquest? What is the actual conquest? We know what they're doing, but what is the actual
I think the conquest would be, and again, all of this is, I view this, the Banshee, as having a long con with everything that they're doing. And I don't want it to sound like it's, a well executed plan. It's not a confidence. They're not getting anything over on anybody. But it's a long, drawn out, meticulously planned affair. It's very tactical. And I would think that the conquest is the final bit of land is acquired during this time. And if we're going by the old, places of power type of, that we had in, Stonehenge and other gathered stone locations around the Celtic region and all
Mhm.
that great stuff, I would say that this is the piece of land that would be needed to create that compass 4 point, to create that place of power, that diagram, that stronghold. This piece of land had the hill that would be needed because it's north facing, and this had the appropriate, and so as a place of power, if you line up all the properties that the Banshee has acquired over the years, they form a symbol. And the Banshee is hoping that this symbol is the one that will catch whatever the hell is coming in 1940.
I love this so much. So, do they get married again? Because this is where you do have an uptick in people for a brief moment and then they die again.
Yes. And I would say, let's make this super duper creepy. Let's say that
Yes.
the Banshee isn't sure what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And the Banshee, with the kind of chorus of the dead that are now advising, by the Banshee's own design, having this group in here, they have a very high stakes. This is still their family. They need to be able to try to make it work too. So that the only people that the Banshee can really trust to, have the family's best wishes are the family, um, or is the family. So I would think that they're not sure how another spouse would handle this. So what they do is they wait for somebody to pass away in town. And then as soon as the person dies, the ghosts, one of them, of an ex-spouse, jumps into the recently vacated body and takes it over to marry the Banshee in, physical form, so to speak. And it never works, at least not yet. And so it's almost a Frankensteinian process. How do we get this to work? How do we get the right soul? Which of these, I mean, if this is almost like Undead Bachelor, which one of these old spouses are, it's a derogatory, but which one of these,
Oh,
spouses work to,
okay. So here's the thing. One of the things I did in the lore was I created a definition and I separated out whites and Draugr, right?
oh, okay.
And whites of the spirit or undead spirit of valiant heroes and can, come back to the by dying in stalwart defense of something tied to keeping that place, person, whatever, safe. And there's no, they just choose, it's the action of dying in defense of something brings them back. But Draugr are animated corpses who are sworn to guard something in this life and the next, and requires a magic user to ritually raise the dead, but does not need to be sustained by the magic user, unlike animated corpses. The ritual to create a Draugr requires, one, that they swear to guard something. A lot of marriage vows can be taken in that sort of instance. Two, they consent freely when they were alive to be raised by the Draugr after death, which raised as a Draugr after death. And three, they can't have been killed expressly to create a Draugr. Like, you can't kill somebody just to do this.
Right. Well, that works well, real well.
So I think it's the case of the Banshee doesn't know it, but they keep trying to create a Draugr, and because of they're not actually the right kind. They're not really a necromancer, right? They're a Banshee. They're supposed to guide souls to the land of the dead, not pull them back. They just can't get the ritual correct, but they're getting closer and closer and closer, and they're almost to the point where they're creating a Draugr for
They
their
are
spouse.
literally reverse engineering this process.
Yes.
And so, they if there's 15 steps, they're like 13 or 14 right now.
Mm-hmm.
They almost have it.
Yeah. Banshee hands out black roses. I mean, the Black Rose Society did do some things. I mean, I remember that game.
I do too. I remember, my back remembers it from having to wear full plate armor. But
I would also like to point out that the most epic moment from my experience in playing a game was counterspelling Soth when he was going to disintegrate you.
I like that part as well.
Look.
Big fan, big fan.
You did get to stab him after the fact.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so, and then so we're saying that the Banshee is working to take recently deceased individuals and merge the souls of their spouses to create a Draugr. Not quite right yet. Not quite got it yet.
Maybe right around 1945 they'll get it.
Maybe.
I don't know, Craig.
I think so. Probably. Right? You
Maybe,
know.
right?
Yep. No, actually, counterspelling Soth was way cooler than counterspelling Strahd, at least in this game. given just the way the healing mechanics didn't work in that game.
Didn't work, right. Best case scenario, 1 hit point.
Okay, so then 1928. You lose that spouse again. So I'm going to say this is where the spell fails kind of thing.
Right, and then the person's reverted back to whatever ghost. I would say that this is also represents another pretty significant loss of magic. And this is the last eccentric ruler period. And again, I think that this would be because of the failure, the loss of the spouse. It plays in perfectly narratively. The Banshee knows they're coming down on crunch time, and this didn't work. Shit. Okay, everybody, we need all hands on deck. We have to get ready for all of this. The hell with everything else. We're focusing solely on this. Get the land ready, get everything ready. We even lose a little bit of land here, I think.
Yeah, like a little bit. The -1, yeah.
Right. And I would say that this is just full focus on the preparation for 1945, and I think that's where the defeat comes in too, because this is the last use of the magic, so to speak. And I think just to kind of tee something up for you for the campaign, if you will allow it, if we're jumping onto the next one, the 1945, because this is the largest loss of magic.
In 1945, yeah.
I would say that this is when the Banshee says, all right, there's only one way to do this. We have somebody that's getting ready to pass away. We've got one shot to get a spouse, animated.
Great.
Can we get
Yeah.
Tell me if I'm okay now. I think I inadvertently bumped my volume there. I think that this is something that with the last little bit of magic that the Banshee possesses, this is the last shot. This is the final roll of the dice. This is the roulette wheel spinning and the ball bouncing and not sure exactly if it's going to work yet or not. But all the money, or all the marbles, all the money, everything is placed on this last bit, and the Banshee puts everything they have into it. And that's 1945.
I like it. I also want to point out that 1941 is a defeat. So they lose.
Right. So again,
I want to say that would it be fair to say, because they're prepping up the hyper focus on this, going into this, they are so focused on this that the outside world perhaps didn't necessarily compute, and 1941 kept them entirely by surprise. And the reveal of the supernatural in 1941 would totally catch them by surprise. So the question is, would this be a case of this, you know, of this reveal? Do people now know that there is a individual living on a bunch of land in Savannah, Georgia, who keeps a bunch of dead folk hanging around?
I would think that because again, this would be akin to, the Red Scare, basically. I would look at it like this, because knowing humanity, as soon as somebody said, "Oh, there's magical creatures about," it wouldn't be like, "Oh, wonderful, let's be friends with them and we can build our society." It'd be like, "Where? Point them out." And so with the kind of the McCarthyism type of feel to this, I would think that anybody that had a different story,
Mm-hmm.
they may not be supernatural at all, but anybody that would have a different story, or would be the other, or somebody that didn't fit into the exact precise Americana norms, might be subject to suspicion. And I think that's where we would be with the Banshee. That, now that I come to think about it, I have a picture that was taken at the end of the Civil War, and I swear to God, he's in it. It's like it would be that type of, it's don't you think it's funny that all these people that have almost died seem to want to marry that person? So I think that that's where we would be. That's the defeat would be that
And
everything that's been built is on a razor's edge right now, and it all comes down to that last expulsion of magic, that last creative endeavor, that last, did this birth the beginning or the rebirth of the family, or and was that hint of a century and a quarter uh, a warning, or was it a promise of destiny fulfilled? And I think that's where we are. We're just on the knife's edge. It's going to go one way or the other.
okay, I love all of this. I love all of this. Um, we need a couple names.
Oh, sure.
We need a
We
well. First of all, we need a name for our banshee.
I was thinking I wanted to get something. I want the Banshee to be throughout the again. This is something that, just for historical purposes, um, I want the Banshee to, no matter what society or time period they lived in, I want them to be able to, without threat of detection, marry whomever they'd like. I want them to be able to, even in times of uh, where homosexual
Mm-hmm.
marriage wouldn't be. The Banshee is without a human definition of gender, if
Yeah.
that is an easier way to put it. And so, doing that, I wanted to pick a name that works regardless. So I'm going with Robin.
Robin? That works. All right, so the banshee's name is Robin.
And as much as I want to do like a McLeod or a McDougal or McPherson or something like that, I think I'm going to go with like Davies, like
Davies?
a yeah,
Which spelling of Davies?
just the Davies.
Okay. All right, Robin Davies. All right, so then what was the son's name? Is the son's name the same? Was it does the banshee take over the identity of the son in whole, or is Robin the name that the banshee has always been known on?
Yeah, Krellin's on to what I was thinking. Yeah, no, I don't think that. I think that the Banshee at all times isn't doing one of those kind of like prototypical vampire moves where it's like, I'm my I'm my son now, or
Yeah.
I've moved to a new town. I don't think it's an assumption of identity. I think it's to keep themselves safe, they would probably fade back into the the background whenever a sun came up, and
No, I
earlier.
meant the original son that
Oh,
they
yes.
were summoned to.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, they were Robin as well.
Okay.
They would almost have to be.
Yeah, but I mean, okay, cool. Cool. And then the wife that the banshee kills. That first wife.
Oh, right. Oh, let's see. Hit my generator here. See if anything. I had a couple and I didn't like them. Let's just go with Katie.
Katie.
Something, yeah. Something again. Katie's a great name. I'm just saying that a couple of these other ones I want to save for later.
That's cool. We can save things. Ooh, I need the mother.
Oh, the mother, Sienna.
Sienna. Because that's going to be important. And we don't really need the nephews that are going to die. They're dead. Cool. Okay. So who is the spouse that Robin marries during the pirate years?
Right, during the pirate years. That's the one that I was going with Aaron. This would have been Aaron would have been male, and at that time the banshee would have been presenting female. So
okay,
the pirating days would have been female.
And Robin presenting female. Okay, so then gave birth to the child, which makes the child even more likely to be closer to Fae than human. So who is the child?
Archie.
Archie? Short for Archibald?
Yeah.
Cool. Cool. Then Robin. Oh, poor Archie. The English kill him. Another reason to hate the English. Okay, so what is so this is where the point that that they want to make the Davies name mean something.
Right. So this would be especially during the because this was during the war, right? The Revolutionary War, and then the time afterwards. This would be when Davies would be probably a prominent naval commander.
Yeah.
And the name would be built off of the fact that, you know,
okay,
revolutionaries and fought for the American cause.
I'm so in this case, would it be fair to say that during the revolution, when they're actively engaged in being a naval commander, that they are presenting male again?
Yes. They would. I unfortunately have to be. I would think at this situation time.
Yeah, there were a number of women who did.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely right.
So the presentation would be okay. So we're given to Robin. Okay.
Basically, anytime the presentation of gender would come up would be when dictated by, I guess, whatever would make the blending in easier.
Yeah.
Is how the banshee is going to go. And I would say that if they had a default, like if they had a preference, I think it would be female presenting when they could, you know, legitimately air quote get away with it, you know, where it would negatively impact, you know, trying to fulfill this contract.
Um, so the default is usually female, but presenting as male when necessary for societal reasons.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, Zheng Yasao is one of the most successful female. There are a number of female pirates who actually present as female. Grain O'Malley, also known as Grace O'Malley, Brienne, is an Irish pirate woman who had 3 husbands and ruled most of the west of Ireland, and told Queen Elizabeth to fuck off in person.
Fantastic.
And they actually met. The story goes that they met in person. The actual dialogue of what happened was never actually recorded, but Elizabeth tried to force the conversation to be in English, and Grace only responded in Latin. And when she sneezed and blew her nose, and then she took the handkerchief and threw it in the fireplace, the Englishmen, or Elizabeth I, commented, "Well, that was a waste. Why are you doing that? You're so barbaric." And Grace turns to her and looks at her dead in the eye and says, "Well, why do you keep a soiled, disease-ridden object on your person? I think that's the more barbaric thing. One of us has greater cleanliness, and it's obviously me."
Fuck off.
Fuck off. Pretty much. Where were we? We've got the hurricane years. So are they presenting as male or female when they're supporting the Union? Because I think it could go either way in that case.
Right. I'm trying to. I think we're going to go with a male presentation from the push forward, meaning from the like the 1820, the Destiny scribe
Yeah.
from the fire. And the only reason why I say that is I'm trying to, the Banshee would be somebody, again, because of so many portents and, destiny and so many, it's a sign, and so much of the magic assumption of that particular region that a Banshee's a part of the lore from was so based upon, precog type of stuff and things like that. I think that the Banshee would maintain everything about when they received that message. It was, I'm not changing anything, and I'm going to just expand and solidify everything I have right now, and I must be on the right path. Don't change a thing. Let's just, full steam ahead and see what happens. And I think that's what it would be. It would be a not necessarily a choice that the Banshee would make, but it'd be like a playing into the superstition that this is what needs to be done.
Okay. Last question that I have immediately is, have they been attempting to bring back a particular spouse or any one of their spouses?
Right. That's all part of the, okay, we have this person that's getting ready to die. I have this much magic, and I have a selection of a few spouses that can go into this body. What's the right combination? And they haven't gotten it yet. And so now it's like, and it's not necessarily like, okay, well, this ghost spouse went, they can't go again. It's okay, everybody's still back on the board. We just need to know that with this body, who fits best. And, it's the young Frankenstein, what brain did you get? Abby? Abby what? Abby normal? Damn you.
Yes. I said, what the hell? Yes, sorry. Mel Brooks is a comedy god. All right. I think I have a lot of things here that will be very, very useful. And I think that, okay, so here's the last question is, we know going into 1945 that there was a success, right? There was a success in this because they end up with another spouse. where is the success? Who is the success?
I leave that to you. That's I would say that if there is a success and that a spouse was, I would say that it literally happens right at 1945, like
Hmm.
right when the century and a quarter is supposed to come into like it's literally like the ghosts and the banshee are all there. The last of the magic goes in, and it's like the end of Avatar one or two, where you zoom in on the corpse's face and the eyes pop up, and that's we don't know. So we don't know
Okay.
who's in it. We don't know.
Okay. I like this. I like this. I know where this is going. I know what's going to happen. It'll be great. It'll be dark as hell, but it'll be great. Um, but I think that's everything I need to know. Is there anything you think I need to know more about from these people, this family?
No, you know what? I actually really love the fact that there was only one person
Mhm.
that we had to really kind of account for this entire time. And in building up a family, I think that the Banshee has a lot of things going on, and I don't think because this is an NPC house,
Mhm.
I think that this is a really intricate backstory for a house. Um, or I shouldn't say it's really it's a very straightforward one, but it's enough for this NPC house to influence, give you ammunition to use
Oh yeah,
for the players.
the ammunition
I
is
didn't
all
want to
there.
say I didn't want to say against, but I mean use with the players.
Use with the players and their consensual stabbing. Um,
Correct, right?
Look, it'll be a thing. But that's everything I need. Thank you for doing this with me. I appreciate it.
I'm not sure I did much except roll poorly, and then you and I had a fun time around the campfire. So,
That's what this is, and this is the fun part. I like bringing in people to help me tell these stories and tell more detail and put more color and depth into all of these. Um, Plus, I know a lot of really great storytellers, so why shouldn't I bring them in to help me do these things? Um, but we should say goodbye, and you should tell people where they can find you.
oh well, sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm Greg Grimjack 21502. You can find me tomorrow night over on Trooper SJP's channel at the Academic Foxhole for Foxhole Fridays, where we're doing a little traveler RPG with the Pirates of Drynax, the Gamblers, as we move through that fantastic system, that old chestnut, and one of the biggest campaigns I think that's ever been bound. It's like, like Horror on the Orient Express and like Pirates of Drynax. It's just an incredible source material for it. And we have a great GM, a fantastic cast. So if you fancy yourself in need of some sci-fi on a Friday, um, jump on over there.
I would also like to point out that on Friday tomorrow they're going to start with a fight.
Well, the rest of the players will. My player likes to run. And so that's
I, I,
okay.
I said that there was a
Understandable.
fight happening. I didn't say you were participating in
Right.
it.
I am not participating. I've been a fighter too much over on Trooper's channel. So I'm going the other direction, I think.
We will see. It will be great. I'm here for it. And as for me, hi y'all, you know me. I'm at Deirdre on Twitter, or Praxagora Thesmiophores. You see me around here on Twitch, or Prax the Bard over on Hive. And the next time you will see me is on Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern, not for A Song of Agapia's Fortune, which had its season finale last week. And hey, if you want to check out that high-level D&D campaign that I have talked about, hi, wake up, bot. Why you no wake? Bot, you no wake? Streamlab. What the heck?
Oh, you wanted that to actually work.
I did. I
Oh,
did want
oh.
it to actually work. I wanted it to actually work. I wanted my my I wanted the commands to work. It decided to not work tonight. I have a YouTube where that whole thing is very nicely neated in a playlist, and you can go find it.
There it is.
There it is. It's there now. It's also where you will be able to find in about 2 hours the all of Witcher Roads Home, which we usually play on Sundays, but we ended last week. It is 5 seasons of love from the Witcher universe and drama and the perfect ending to that story, which I think is great. So check that out. But you can find me on Saturday with the final player who will build their house for on Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern. And I'm going to keep them a surprise the way I've done with all the other players for the last minute. So we'll come back for that. And then keep an eye out because, excuse me, I'll be announcing more about when the Carousel Court will begin and a little probably getting ready for the season 3 slash solo interseason episodes for Vampire the Masquerade Montreal by Night over on Wandering DM. And I just would like to point out, everyone, that everything that has happened so far in these 2 seasons have not been the Ravnos' fault. That might change going forward, but right now it is.
Story.
No, literally, the Ravnos. I have fixed everybody else's problems, and they just. It's not my fault. It's other people's fault. It isn't. It really is, actually. But you can check out my Twitter because I post where I'm going to be, and the fun, wonderful, fabulous folks like this person I get to play with and tell stories with, and just enjoy their company. But we should raid into we're gonna go raid over to the fabulous painting pirate who's doing some clout chasing influencer WWE 2023. Pirate does a lot of mini painting, he does a lot of TTRPG stuff, and took a bunch of individuals and have been doing a lot of fun stuff. I also asked him to do a special thing for this, so keep an eye out. But other than that, I'll see you next time, everybody.